We've got some
Hey,
fresh new
I'm
young
Luis.
talent
And
doing some
I'm
things that I
Luis.
know you haven't
And you're
heard
listening to the
before.
Content is Profit podcast.
What is that, Luis, that creates?
I just decided to follow the steps of my more handsome and better brother.
Super successful brother, of course. Follow me at FONZI Creates. But guys,
Hey,
here it is.
We're rebranding our personal accounts.
FONZI and LUISDA back with another episode of Content is Profit. And today we bring another What's Your Take? Today we're going to be discussing the questions.
We need like a what's your take sound.
Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, that'll be cool. But today we'll be discussing the question, do tools make your podcast better?
Ooh, what do you think, Fonzie? This is a hot topic. Every time we go to an event and we start talking about podcasts, everybody starts like pulling out their cameras and their microphones and their things. And we're like, we're not techie guys. Like, why do you guys do that?
Yeah, I think there's such a hype for tech and all these things. Yeah. I do believe some tech, actually, my belief is that tech is meant to facilitate the process. And in that journey, it can actually, yes, improve some of the quality of the production of the podcast. But that necessarily doesn't mean that it's going to make your podcast better. But where I see more people fall is they think the tool is going to make the podcast. Therefore, they don't do anything because they don't have the tool, right? But what we discovered just when we started 45 Live, which is the challenge that it kickstarted our creator journey, right? 45 days of going live.
Yeah.
In there, we decided quality of the message over quality of the production. And let me tell you, there are podcasts that are recorded in a phone. That's it. And they are absolutely bangers, way better than a full production podcast that nobody listens, or they can retain people's attention because the tool doesn't make the podcast.
Yeah. I remember Mike something. He produced this Discovery Channel episode like Ugly Jobs, or remember him? Mike, he has like a deep voice like this.
Yeah. The guy that he had a show in Discovery Channel too, where he go and did like the dirty jobs.
Dirty jobs, Mike. Okay, so Dirty Jobs, Mike. So he has an incredible podcast, and it's crazy. I listened to his show for a while. I don't know if it's still on, but it was an 8-minute podcast episode. I think he did like twice a week or something like that. And it was him on his phone inside of his closet recording this amazing story. And the way that he wrote the story, the way that he recorded the story was so engaging that it just kept you hooked the entire 8 minutes, right? And you think, oh, 8 minutes is nothing. No, 8 minutes is a long time to be capturing attention, right?
Yeah, when the average attention span is only 15 seconds.
It's so good. I got to find the name of the podcast and see if it's still there. But that's an example, right, of a captivating story that when we find out the production or how they do it was him in his closet with his phone just recording the thing, even though he had access to big studio money and big studios to do something like this. So
yeah, absolutely.
Pretty interesting.
One of our best episodes, if I'm not mistaken, has been recorded on a phone. Right?
Yes. Mm-hmm. The most consumed episode that we have on the show.
Yeah, it was recorded on an iPhone, not on this awesome setup that we've had since the beginning, because we thought that the tool made the podcast. But in reality, you made the podcast, then you can bring the tool to facilitate the process and help you. And sure, you can increase the quality of the production. But I do believe this as well. It gets to a point of like diminishing returns. Like you can keep adding things and adding tech and, getting tools. And then eventually it's just going to stop giving you a return. And it might just be more of a hassle, actually, right? To implement all these tools that you now have, rather than focusing on just producing a good quality message inside of your podcast.
I mean, not gonna lie, tools are sexy.
Tools are fun.
Tools are fun, are sexy. But again, think about your journey, right? Like if you are, let's say you're a company and you have resources, of course, you're gonna have many, many options to choose from, right? At the end of the day, what's gonna help your team go execute? And if you're a solopreneur, an entrepreneur, a business owner, right, that might have limited resources, but you do have time, believe me, your phone is enough to go and produce something of quality. Obviously, there's going to be some limitations. We're talking just with somebody in our community a couple days ago, right? And they want to start their platform. They started producing daily clips. Then that evolved into a full-blown, like 5 to 10 minute YouTube video. Then that evolved into somewhat of a podcast type of deal, right? And there's a lot of ideas of I want to do this, right? but this person does not have many resources, right? Does not have many options, to the point that they don't have a computer, right? And to their point, amazing the fact that they're pushing publishing even without a computer, but that limits what they can do in a way. But also in a way, it opens another set of opportunities in the current channels, right? The platforms today are built for you to publish inside of your phone. You don't need much equipment, right? Which is incredible. So anyways,
I do think I want to mention this. I do think this is kind of like a hidden benefit of investing in the tools. And I think it's the fact that when, you know, those that invest pay attention, right? Those that pay attention. In this case, I think by you investing in a tool like we did with the Rodecaster and the microphones, now you're invested in the process, right? Because guess what? We can buy this and just put it in the closet.
Where we do,
But we were, because we did 5 episodes. I feel like what killed us was our process of putting friction on everything. But when we revisited the process a year later, we actually utilized the tools in an easy way that like facilitated the creative process.
And for those who had not listened to the first 5 episodes, basically we recorded 5 episodes, right? Just a ton of friction in the process. We have multi-camera. We had to, you know, full 1 hour
lots
setup.
of frictions.
And then the Rodecaster, which is a tool that we used to record and stream and you know, do all the sounds and stuff, went into the closet, right? And my wife was like, well, okay, well, that was great. $800 invested in this thing. And I was like, but we're going to use it one day.
Yeah, and now we used it, right?
Still
400 plus episodes.
Yes.
But my point is, sometimes the investment will kick you in the booty to actually take action, right?
Yes.
But
okay, so
it's crazy because now I'm thinking, but there's also people that think that by investing, you already have the solution. So people might think, oh, I'm going to invest in this tool. I'm a podcaster. No. What makes you a podcaster is the actually creating and publishing of the content.
It's like, I bought this fitness thing to get my abs.
I already got abs.
already got abs.
Yeah, like just the act of purchasing something actually makes people feel like they accomplished it. But at the same time, it can drive them to take action. So it's like a sort of, you know, it's like a double-edged sword.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. So
I was going to say a sword of two
enough
edges.
of that. I mean, to me, the way I see it, right? I lean towards the tools do not make your podcast better.
Yeah, I agree.
Do you agree with that?
I agree with that.
Okay.
Tools don't make your podcast better. That being said, I mean, first focus on releasing actually the podcast and focusing on the message. Then you can leverage tools to, you know, either make the process easier, facilitate your creative process. But at the end of the day, the basis of it is of what makes a podcast good or not is the message.
Absolutely. Right. At the end of the day, there's many elements, right? Your message, the personality, the topics that you even talk about, right? They might be a very boring topic, but even in very boring topics, you might still have an amazing audience, right? It could be boring for some, not boring for others, right? There's a case study I listened to a couple of days ago, I think, and I can't remember the exact name of the channel, but I can see the footage, right? And it's this university professor that records Zoom interviews in the physics department and then uploads the Zoom interview without editing to YouTube. And they have more than 1 million subscribers.
More than 1 million?
And that's all he does.
Wow, that's crazy.
All he does, right?
Well,
to me personally, right? I'm not interested in physics, right? That's not a topic that I will consume. But he found his audience, right? And the platform allows him to find his audience.
Absolutely.
And that's his process, right?
There's another content creator I talked to you about before. It's not a podcast. It's more on the YouTube side. But is the guy that he pretty much works at a Subway. And all he does is like 5-minute videos of one clip, like straight clip, no cuts, nothing. His phone on his chest, recording whatever he's doing, putting sandwiches together. And he does a voiceover telling a story of that day at work. It's like, today I met a Karen at Subway. She wanted to make this sub X, Y, and Z way, right?
Yeah.
And it's super interesting. Like, I was watching it, and in my mind, I'm like, why am I watching some dude, you know, put sandwiches together?
Here's the concept.
But in my mind, it's because of the message. Yeah. The quality is awesome.
Telling the story.
And if you look at it, the tool was just his phone, and then when he was editing, he was, you know, he did a voiceover with probably on his phone as well.
We should do an experiment, you know, first person podcast. And just like strap the GoPro as we do an episode. And that's what streams the first person. So
So
you
the
as an
person
audience
watching this-
see what we see when we do the podcast and
Inception
listen
podcast.
Inception podcast. That'd be cool.
That'd be interesting.
Well, see, I mean, here's the thing, right? Obviously, tools are gonna spark your imagination in how different ways on how you can create, right? At the end of
Yeah.
the day, like if they don't add friction to your process and they don't stop you from publishing your message out, awesome. Go ahead, do your thing, right? But at the end of the day, if it stops you, I think it's time to revisit that. Now, with that said, also, you need to be in a position, or I feel like we all need to be in a position where we can have fun creating content, right? Regardless of the topic, like, are you actually enjoying the process? And for us, those ideas are like, oh, maybe this week we're going to try that first person thing. I mean, just FONZI, just right before we jump on the podcast, you showed me like these meme that you created and you posted it as reels, and you're like, wow, a week later, this thing is blowing up. I'm like, awesome, that's cool. And this is how you find these indicators of things that are working today. And that might be resonating with your own audience, right? So if we're busy trying to figure out the tools and trying to figure out this thing, we're never going to have the creative space to actually go out and play with the content.
Yeah, I would just say don't get stuck in the tool hamster wheel.
Okay,
So
two
you
favorite
know,
tools.
You know our take now.
What's
Make
your
sure
take?
you let us know what's your take. Go to @BIZBROS on Facebook, on Instagram. Send us a message, or you can go to FONZI Creates, or like my copycat brother, LUISDA Creates.
Let's go.
I like it when you change it. I'm not gonna lie. I was like,
sounds
cool,
good.
cool.
I know.
We're branded. Now people are gonna say, you guys get the same name and the same social media handle. Cool.
Okay, two favorite tools.
My two favorite tools, or we're gonna do one-on-one?
I mean, there's so many favorite tools for me, but for you,
yeah. I mean, I'm gonna start with in the podcast.
apart from the obvious.
In the
Okay,
what are the obvious?
obvious is computer,
Okay.
Rodecaster, which we already mentioned.
Okay, the Rodecaster. I was gonna say
And
Rodecaster.
phone.
And phone. All right, so no computer, no Rodecaster. For those that are listening, I don't know what it is. It's the machine that we have right here in front of us that allows us to record it's an audio interface, high quality. Put some sounds like this one. Yeah, the crowd's going wild, right?
Or the
Again,
famous golden
or
boulder.
The famous golden boulder. So
Okay.
that audio interface has really facilitated or creative process. So obviously that's an obvious one. Now, tool number one for me, I would say it honestly, we started on StreamYard. I think StreamYard made streaming live content is profit super simple, super easy.
Yeah, that was good.
StreamYard, if you're listening to this, make sure you sponsor us as well. We've been using you for a very long time, and we refer you to a very big amount of people.
Yes.
So that being said, right, like one of the biggest challenges we had when we first started the podcast, which it wasn't Content is Profit, it was called Brews and Bros. That podcast, we weren't streaming it live. We first recorded it, and then we were gonna edit, do a whole post-production thing, and then put it out into the world. That never happened because there was a lot of friction. So after doing the 45 live, we decided, why don't we do the podcast as a live as well? And whatever we record is out in the world and is raw and real. And guess what? We decided to do that. And the easiest way we found to connect pretty much us, the platform, to social media was through StreamYard. So that is my tool number one. What's yours?
Oh boy. I have to go with. We're talking softwares, yeah, tool, right? Yeah,
That's the tool.
Descript. I'm obsessed. 100%. I know
Sponsors too. Descript.
Well, we're actually affiliates. Full disclosure, right? We were like, how do we actually? We're continuing to recommend this software, so you're gonna find the link right below if you want to find out. But it's just made the post production process not only for ourselves but with our team so much easier, right? We have a stage in the process of what we call value index, which is where we select the ideas, right? So FONZI is not too involved in that part of the process, but the person that is,
I created that process.
you created that
first of all.
process, and then you delegated it to the team, which is great, right? Yeah, which
And then you got
I'll
approved.
give you credit.
No, I'm just saying it. Like,
Yes,
but and the process at first, it was a Google Doc. So
it was a
like,
Google Doc with a human, right? And it took a lot of time, right?
Yeah.
And there's like several steps, right? Now this tool, apart from many other things, it allows us to select those ideas, label them within the episode, right? And easily manage, I guess, the information, right? And we talk about messaging so much. And if you are interested in getting to know a little bit more about that process, let us know. We're thinking about releasing something along those lines. But it has been so awesome, and especially for me. Like, I like a lot of speed and testing and tinkering, right? Which a lot of content creators like to do. And we build a lot of the prototypes of the clips that we're going to build inside of this script. And then we give it to the team, be like, okay, how can you take this from a 6 to like an 8, right? And I think to me that has been a game changer. And I just really enjoy using that tool. Like I literally have it open 24/7.
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Okay.
I like it.
Last tool for you.
Oh, honestly, since we barely use any tools, I'm like, what do I like, right? But and I'm probably we might actually agree on this one. We might overlap. But I really like the camera that we use.
That was gonna be mine.
Is the Sony
CVE10.
CVE10, right? And honestly, what I like about it is a lot of these DSLR cameras, right? Like really good photographer cameras. If you want to plug them in the computer, it's a mess. Like you have to buy like adapters and plug them in, maybe install a plugin in your computer. And this camera was one of the purposes was made for content creators, so you could use it as a webcam. So all you got to do is literally plug it as a USB to your computer, and the computer reads it as a webcam, and you have super nice high quality footage. And don't get me wrong, before this we were actually using a Logitech Brio, right, which is a nice
4K
webcam 4K, but it's not the same, right? And I'm not gonna get all technical on this camera thing, but a nice decent webcam, decent camera that you can take out on the field and record good video, take good pictures. If you can also use it as a webcam, it's awesome, because now you have juicy content that you can take to your team. They can edit it without complaining that you look like Minecraft character, right? Like a pixelated character, right? I'm talking about you, Zoom. You're terrible, right? Horrible. Every footage that you record from a Zoom call and you get it is horrible. The quality is terrible. So this is definitely a game changer. And again, shout out to StreamYard now, because StreamYard has local recording, meaning it records full quality of what your camera is looking. And when you download that file, you don't have that pixelation that you have with Zoom.
Juicy.
So it's really good for the post-production process, and it really helps with the quality of the content that is going out.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember when we went together, right? And we do our homework a little bit. We're like, oh man, like for us, that was quite an investment, right?
We do the homework to the point that we almost like psych ourselves out of buying some stuff.
I know. So, we were at the store for about hour and a half with the guy, and we were supposed to buy a different one. But anyways, if you want more on the camera, let us know. We can do, maybe we'll do our first full review of equipment. But that's the one I was going to say. And I'm looking through my desk to see the things that I use the most, because I do like tools, right? And I think everything in my desk I use, but my absolute favorite from what I'm looking at is the AirPods Pro Max. And this might not be...
Yeah, but you don't use them for the podcast.
Well, we're not using it for the podcast. I use it for literally everything else but the podcast, because obviously I do like the ones that I use. But we're saying tools for content creation in general, or should I go for podcast?
Well, we're talking about the podcast. Do tools make your podcast better? That's literally the headline of the show.
Okay, well, I guess I'll say that one later.
I'll say your iPad. Your iPad's good. You take notes on your iPad.
I was putting that into the category of the computer, but yes, the iPad has been absolutely my podcast companion. And with the software that we use in there, which I can name because we just said 2 tools, but we can extend on the tool side.
Yeah. I'm gonna say this. I think we struggle to come up with tools because we got so little tools, and we're not like tool obsessed.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a good reason. Here's another thing. Here's another concept that we were talking about for this episode, which we might do. I think I would like to do. We have the 6 categories, right, of content creation, right? From the research all the way to how do we actually manage, going through monetization, creation, all that. Mm-hmm. There's tools that we can associate to each of those categories to make your production way faster with you or your team. So here's an idea for the next episode. We actually go through each of the categories, and we mention a few tools. We mention a few tools that will help people get their podcasts up and running, or even leveling up if you're already publishing.
Yeah,
so
I'll say this word of caution: don't get caught up in the tool hamster wheel. Absolutely. And just because there's a lot of tools and you don't know which one to pick, don't let that stop you from publishing.
We could do,
because again, you can literally publish your podcast just from your phone, and that's it. You record the audio, and that's it. You can publish it right there and then.
Okay, we could do lists of tools based on categories, and then we do a scenario where it's like high quality minimum tool pod setup, and then dream setup.
All right, cool. You are in charge of that episode. Now, I do want to mention an honorable tool of the day. And this is because yesterday I had a call with actually one of our previous clients. He sent me a message and he's like, dude, I need some help. Like, you know, with these audios, we launched a podcast. It's going great. We have a lot of people, but the audio is just like so messed up. We had to buy some new equipment, some new microphones, etc. And I was like, oh, cool. It's like how you guys are fixing it. And he like described this whole process, right? Humans editing it, which again is great. But at the same time, I'm like, wow, that's a lot of interviews and a lot of freaking work.
A lot of time.
And I sent him this tool. I was like, hey, why don't you try this? This actually has done a pretty good job. We personally don't use it on our podcast because we got the Rodecaster, which produces nice, juicy audio. But we've noticed some cases that this tool is like insane. And I sent them a link to Adobe Podcast. So that is pretty much AI audio editing tool that you literally upload your audio file and you click enhance and it turns your audio into pretty much sounding like this, like you recorded it in a podcasting studio. It's crazy. Really, really good. So that's the honorable mention. If you record on your phone and you're maybe not 100% happy with how that sounds, you can literally go to Adobe Podcast, just put it in Google, upload the file in there. It's free at the moment. And then you get a super high quality audio back that you can upload and, you know, tell people I recorded that at a studio.
Just so you know, Descript does that too, and we are affiliates. So
look at that. Descript does that too.
But the link below, guys. With that said, thank you so much for tuning into the Contents Profit Podcast. Go ahead and follow the show in your favorite podcasting platform and on social media at BIZBROS Co.
That is Ran. If today's episode helped you move one step closer towards publishing consistently, please don't forget to share this episode and leave a 5-star review. Let's go.
Bye, guys.